our children deserve a high-quality education. Sadly, that is not our current story. According to your own 2018 report, South Carolina schools are tasked with educating roughly 1 million children. The students who enter the doors of a school do not come as blank slates. 58% of South Carolina children are enrolled in Medicaid. Roughly 98,400 children are identified as having a disabling condition, and over 40,000 children have been the subject of a child abuse or neglect investigation. And these are the reported statistics. Currently, I teach a student whose father died unexpectedly this past summer, a student whose mother has stage 4 colon cancer, and a student who is recovering from sexual assault. These are some of the stories that I know. Imagine trying to grasp the importance of the rock cycle, the triangle congruence postulates, or the symbolism of the handkerchief in Othello when you are reeling from grief, abuse, or hunger. My 104 students all bring a story into my classroom every day, and it is my job to help them succeed and prepare them for the future. But my hands are often tied due to lack of funding and a misguided use of the allocated money. South Carolina teachers are expected to meet the needs of all of their students while battling large class sizes, an unrealistic amount of academic content due to mandated testing, and inadequate supplies and resources. Despite these odds, teachers meet their students' needs every day. Imagine how teachers could impact lives if public education were fully funded. During the public session this morning, you had the wonderful opportunity to hear from 3 spectacular students advocating on behalf of others. Imagine those students' experiences scaled on a statewide level. Creating rich, meaningful learning opportunities for every student could happen if education were funded at the level that Section 59-20 of the South Carolina Code of Law requires. I believe a fully funded public education would improve the state of South Carolina because schools would be equipped to handle each and every child and the story they bring with them. If you believe that what happens in the classroom is essential to a quality, successful public education system and essential to a sustainable workforce, then fully fund the student-based costs that the General Assembly put into law and has never funded to its own mandated level. Support the request from SC4Ed and the South Carolina Education Association to increase teacher salaries across the board by 10%. Stop the General Assembly from mandating new programs, tests, assessments, and reporting measures that actively keep us from teaching and doing what is best for student learning. With your help, our public education system can work to create full and rich stories for all children in South Carolina.
You're telling me that we don't follow our own laws?
Sadly, yes, sir. I am.
Yes, sir.
And you're also telling me that we pass laws to make y'all teach things other than what you're trained to teach?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sadly,
My
again.
goodness, I cannot believe that. Who was thinking of those things?
Not teachers.
Ms. Ellis, thanks for speaking. And I would like to talk to you offline at some point.
Okay.
I think there's definitely a space, and just so you know, I just got back, rub it in again, but
Tired of hearing. We don't want to hear it.
there were 23 of us that went to film. We just returned to study their educational system.
They have longer days.
Actually, actual days, but shorter work days. A lot of what you said, I would come back a little bit on, and just want to speak to you offline. And the whole point is to, I guess, raise the teacher experience and the profession. That's the number one thing that we learned from filming, and want to do that in South Carolina. But I think that there's definitely ways that we can, and there's ways that we can't. And talking about our formula, we do, with our surplus issue, we literally cannot, even if we spend every dollar, we will not meet that formula. So there's expectations, and then there's things that we can do. So I just want to say hi, I'm Neil. I'd like to talk to you offline.
Ellis, thanks for coming today and coming after a day in school. So as a school board member in Greenville, we've talked a lot about this balance between adequately funding education, adequately compensating teachers, and then this whole idea of these burdens that are put on teachers that may not directly impact student achievement. So I just wondered, from your experience as a teacher, can you just give an example of one of these kind of tests or regulations or reporting requirements, these things you're talking about that we expect teachers to do that may not have a direct impact on your classroom?
I can actually speak about one that happened today during first period. The state has mandated bus evacuation drills. And so I teach in a high school, and so the expectation is that every student in the school go through and practice how to safely evacuate from a bus.
What percentage of your students ride on the bus?
I'm at a new school, so I'm not sure. I'd say probably 50%. And that's the normal bus riders. They expect everybody to do it because of the potential to go on a field trip or have to take a bus for some reason. But first period today, a 47-minute class, I had 15 minutes of teaching time because of that experience. And I understand the need to do it. I mean, nobody wants to have a child harmed on a bus, but our comment, I was talking with one of our assistant principals, and the question was, why not, at the beginning of the school year, those students who are bus riders do it, the first day of school, and any student who was going on a field trip, they set the time to leave 5 minutes early and
Sort of
practice it.
like they do on an airplane when you get on there.
Exactly, but
But if
just-
we didn't have flammable school buses, you wouldn't even need to worry about it.
Well, that sort of goes back to your own funding, so. But that's just an example of something that looks good on paper, but then the reality of it is it just takes away from that learning. I could spend the rest of the night talking about testing, and how the data that comes from that is not necessarily valid or helpful to teachers. Meetings that we're forced to attend instead of having time to plan. I actually did a lesson today that my students loved, and they were like, that was really great. And I said, well, it took me an hour and 15 minutes to plan this one lesson for one day. And so when we continually lose time because of other meetings and expectations and paperwork, it really ends up hurting the students. Did that answer your question?
You're from the Department of Education.
I am, and hey Lisa, how are
Hello.
you?
How are you?
So really quick question, because I'll be honest with you, we spend a lot of time in education going like this, and I got a lot of phone calls from districts and teachers telling me what we mandated that we did not mandate, and we certainly did not mandate that you do it at that time and in that manner. I've never heard of this. I wanna look to see what it is. I can tell you that I know that bus drivers have to know how to evacuate a bus. This is the first time in 10 years of doing K-12 that I've heard that during the school day, every student in the school had to be loaded on the bus and evacuated, but we certainly did not tell y'all when to do that.
Well, I think part of it has to do with, being efficient with the bus drivers. So what they do is they drop the students off and just stay there to be able to run it. So, I mean, again, those decisions are above my pay grade and knowledge.
Right.
But ultimately what happens is, again, losing valuable class time.
Correct. I just want to be clear on who's mandating the when on that, because there's no one at the State Department saying, avoid class time and do this, but I will also say, based on the wreck that we just saw in Greenwood last week, I would certainly want to make sure that children know how to evacuate off the bus.
Oh, I'm not saying that it's not,
Yeah.
that's not what I'm saying.
And I realize you were just giving that as an example, and it is important, but all of those things, we mandate that you learn how to use the defibrillator. We mandate that you learn how to give CPR. We mandate that you have some sort of economic training. We mandate earthquake drill. We mandate a
We're
safe.
having that tomorrow.
Right. How to administer medication. So, and all of those things are important. Your point is they take away from your classroom teaching, and I get that. And so, to Emily's point, maybe we should come up with a clearer line, that you don't have to do this during classroom time. Maybe you could do it, alternate the lunchroom or during, other times, it's free times. I don't know.
Well, sure, they gotta eat.
But they can eat and watch a video at the same time, right? On and off the bus.
On and off the bus.
That's right.
So, Mr. Lewis, we didn't mean to cut you off, was that good?
I'm
Okay.
finding out where
Well,
it is.
and I'll be glad, if I may, Senator, I'll be glad to provide to Amanda. I actually had, when, she's now a full-time employee with us, but I had our law clerk pull every time in the code and the reg, we tell a school to do something in the elementary, middle, and high school grades, because you're right, it seems very small when we're dealing with the one piece of legislation. And I repeatedly get told, you all always say no to everything, because I get told by people like you to please not add any more things. But it is one more thing, but it's one more thing that happens 5 times. And so we do have that list, and it's a good starting off point to try to consolidate some things. And then in addition to that, we're gonna pull all the professional development requirements. Because I know you all are also told to learn X during your collegial development the first 5 days before school. At this point, and that point, what that usually ends up is you're doing webinars at night and on the weekends.
Of course, we always have that 3 weeks at the end of school where nobody's doing anything because we've already given you the test, right?
You are right as rain on
Yes,
that.
sir.
I have some ideas on how to fix that.
Get with me on that. Thank you.
Sure, thank
All right.
you.
Dr. Kim